You know what? Fuck's sake. Every time I press F1, the video forwards. Okay, so I use the numpad as my keys, but no one's watching my stream, so I'm just gonna upload this to YouTube, and I'm already gonna dislike this video because of the title. And let's see his biased opinions, and let's see what Hightower has to say about Spider-Man No Way Home. Spoilers ahead. Let's go. Major spoilers.
Far from.
Okay, sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, Spider-Man Far From Home broke me.
Sick? Heartbroken.
Now I'm about to go see No Way Home, but I have to make a stop first.
The way he's so dramatic, like I see the entertainment, but then like I find this Daredevil video entertaining because I agree with what he's saying about Daredevil. But then as soon as I disagree with him, everything in his video is so annoying. I don't know why. I try not to be biased, but this guy is really biased to Sam Raimi.
Josh, are you excited for No Way Home?
Kinda.
John, are you excited for No Way Home?
Yeah.
This is drinking.
Here we go.
Alright.
Hey, how you doing? As much as I'd like to think my passion, my style, my personality is what led me to have the platform that I'm so lucky to be standing on, I'd be lying if I didn't admit that my career on here, my success, my infamy, whatever the f you want to call it, is forever intertwined in the tangled web John Watts and Kevin Feige have woven for the wall crawler. After Far From Home, after the constant, consistent lack of hefty emotional weight, the avoidance of empathy and sincerity, the focus on being a lighthearted teen comedy with the maturity and depth of an episode of Drake and Josh, I was heartbroken, unable to be.
What you do not understand is that Spider-Man is a teenager. It's okay for Spider-Man to relax, bro. Literally, the problem with these people saying, "Oh, this is not my Spider-Man," they literally just want to see Peter Parker suffer. Like, I saw this meme where it's like, comic book fans when they finally see Peter Parker with no friends and he's in a broke ass apartment and he cannot pay rent. Let's go. That's my Spider-Man. Yeah, I get that that's comic accurate, or that's the Spider-Man that you grew up with, the one with money problems or relatable problems. But it's okay to have a breather and let Peter actually enjoy his life. And I really like what they did with these movies. They, at first I think Far From Home was kinda annoyed me, where to the point where oh shit, my chair is falling down. Let me just. But I think Far From Home my chair is so noisy. I have to stop moving. Far From Home kind of annoyed me by the fact that it had like the same tone with Homecoming, except that it was just I'm sad that Tony's dead. But it also it was a good movie, and I do appreciate Homecoming and Far From Home so much more now after No Way Home. But, that's just my opinion. Let's just keep watching.
Excited for anything Marvel was going to do with this rendition of a character that I have loved since I first could love. To put it,
If you're a comic book reader, then you just know how fucking inaccurate. I'm gonna go change my chair, guys. Alright, I'm sitting in this. Oh, every time I press num 4, where was I?
hopeful, I know that out since I first could love. To put it,
if you're a comic book fan, you just know how inaccurate Toby and Andrew are. I don't know if that was part of the recording I just said, because this stupid chair that is so noisy that will just mess up the recording. Oh my god! Luckily, no one's watching my stream, because people would have been annoyed. Anyway,
it's simply Peter Parker in the MCU outside of Civil War has never felt like Peter Parker to me. I know that, you know that, we all know it.
You know that, he says. Do you know how unrealistic it would be that if Tom Holland's Peter Parker did not idolize all of these heroes? Like, he's just a more relatable and modern day version of Peter Parker. When Sam Raimi's version came out, that was the best Spider-Man we could get, and that was the most accurate in how nerds were portrayed back in like the early 2000s or the late 90s, which makes sense because that was 20 years ago. A lot has changed in 20 years, if you do believe it or not. And Tom Holland is just more, as a high school student, I'm 16, just started college, just like Spider-Man. I'm joking. Like, I'm not joking. I'm going off so off topic. This is why I love streaming. Whereas, like, I can just talk about whatever the fuck. I don't care if anyone's watching or not. I can literally not get triggered by the fact that I'm recording a video. But actually, I am recording a video right now. So my ADHD is kind of getting. I hate to focus. What was I talking about? Yeah, Tom Holland is just a more modern representation of Spider-Man, and he's actually relatable to this current day and age of the 20, like the Gen Z era at least. So yeah.
Just shut the f up. And did I think for a second that Spider-Man No Way Home would change that, would fix that? Was I hopeful? A little. Was I assured? Nah. Was I wrong? Kinda. But first, I'd like to thank the special sponsor of Real, the website about all home. Figure out how you should is home science. The first hour, the first link in the description. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna be real with you games. The first hour, the first half of Spider-Man No Way Home threw me into the darkest parts of hell with no way out. It's typical MCU Spider-Man, the style, the memes, the jokes, stuff that is simply in no way for me. Except now, we get to see villains from Spider-Man franchises that I love. And seeing these actors reprise their roles is goosebump inducing.
Wait, what did you say just now about
A Way Out? It's typical MCU.
He says this is not the Peter Parker, but like the reason he goes to Doctor Strange is because he doesn't care about, like, he does care. He's just sad that the whole identity reveal thing is affecting him, but he tells Doctor Strange that it's not only just about me, it's hurting the people around me, and I want to fix it for them. Even when he talks to the MIT lady, he only cares about Ned and MJ. He's not talking about himself. But because Peter's so kind and selfless, the MIT lady's like, I'll consider you as well. Is that not Peter Parker?
Spider-Man, the style, the memes, the jokes, stuff that is simply in no way for me. Except now, we get to see villains from Spider-Man franchises that I love. And seeing these actors reprise their roles is goosebump inducing. When Ock shows up, when you hear that Elfman theme slowly creep in, when the echo of the goblin laugh hits those eardrums, when the audience gasps, collectively getting a cold shiver sent down their spine, it's like nothing else. Until you, if you're unfortunately like me, quickly realized that John Watts and screenwriters Eric Somers and Chris McKenna working with Willem Dafoe's Norman Osborn and Melina's Otto Octavius within the MCU's established tone is like trying to eat a gourmet meal in the stall of the KFC bathroom. It still tastes great, it still hits the spot, don't get me wrong, you still get those goosebumps, but you're distracted by the smell of bleach that covers up the human excrement of processed chicken. It's almost like taking these legends and shoving them into Happy Hogan's apartment was never going to be the best way to serve and service these characters.
I feel like they did Electro and Green Goblin way more justice. Willem Dafoe is, I think, the most comic book accurate villain since day one. As Green Goblin, he's just psychotic. He has his motives. You know, even though Sam Raimi's movies are cheesy as fuck, and like I don't like how cringy and cheesy they can be, but Willem Dafoe fits right in because that's how he's supposed to be. Not everyone else around in the movie is also supposed to be cheesy and cringy like him, or like basically stupid. Like not stupid, but like his level of weirdness that he brings to the table is a Green Goblin aspect. Like all the and in Sam Raimi's movies, everyone was just super weird. Like go rewatch his movies and like, yeah, it is fascinating to notice the extra detail of the extras, but the extras are just so extra, dare I say, where they're like, oh look, Spider-Man, and it's like it's so cliche and fucking cringy, where like childhood me would love it. Like fuck, I just dropped my thing I was fidgeting with. Like childhood me loved it, and till this day I do like Sam Raimi's movies. This is again, Tom Holland is superior in every single way.
What I'm saying is, taking characters crafted, conceived almost 20 years ago by a director at the height of his career, a director whose style, personality, heart, and soul is felt in every frame, every blink, every touch, and throwing them into the Marvel machine, throwing them into the third MCU Spider-Man tale, filmed during a pandemic, should never work. And for me, half the time, it did not work. For me, the first half of No Way Home was everything I feared. Raimi meme callbacks, Stark Tech.
Raimi meme callbacks was, dude, it was one callback. It was one callback, and even so, that is what normal Osborn is. It's not like a stupid like joke, whereas Okay, the my back one was, I would say, like a stupid joke they did for fan service. But it's something I'm a scientist myself. Although yes, it was fan service, it was like a big meme in the Spider-Man meme community or whatever. It still fits the character. But yeah, the my back with the one with Andrew and Toby, that one was kind of eh. I don't know. Like, it was funny, I enjoyed it, but from a story writing perspective, that scene did not need to happen, but it did, and it was really funny. But high top is high top. He's stupid.
Controlling Ock's arms, a lizard and an Electro.
What is your problem with Stark Tech controlling Doc Ock's arm? It makes complete sense because they introduced nanotech in Sam Raimi's film. Spider-Man is using a nanotech suit, so when the arms are like, ooh, more advanced nanotech, of course they're going to be attracted to it. And then, since the nanotech is more advanced than the arms because they were created 20 years ago where technology was not that good, of course Peter Parker will be able to control the arms. It was a smart way to defeat Doc Ock rather than just punching him and capturing him. But whatever.
Act very differently from what we once saw. But at least it's self-aware about it this swing around. Peter Parker, rather than deal with his own problems, immediately thinks to run to an Avenger for help, but this time...
His own problems?
And he's so that... But at least it's self-aware about it this swing around. Peter Parker, rather than deal with his own problems and...
His own problem is that everyone knows who he is. How would you solve that problem? Because it's affecting everyone around him. If he can't solve it alone, how will he do it? Answer me that, high top.
Immediately thinks to run to an Avenger for help, but this time he suffers the consequences that have been sorely missing. Peter Parker...
Sorely missing, bro. Was the end of Homecoming not a consequence? Liz left his school. Was the end of Far From Home not a whole consequence of Peter trying to neglect his responsibility, which turned into a whole shit show in London and people died, which led to Mysterio revealing Peter's identity? This whole movie is a consequence of Far From Home, which is a consequence of the events of Endgame.
Rather than confront the MIT assistant vice chancellor, indirectly puts the entire fate of reality at risk. Peter Parker, rather than have his mission based in empathy, would rather get rid of these villains, these victims, as soon as possible so he can focus on what's really important, getting his girlfriend and best friend into college. It's as if the storytellers realized the absurdity of Peter Parker accidentally ordering a drone strike on a classmate, the redundancy of him constantly trying to stand on his own, but then regressing back into a mini Avenger, and decided to call the character out on that kind of behavior. It's as if the filmmakers realized that they needed a do-over with MCU Spider-Man, a softcore back-to-basics reboot. It's as if they realized that Spider-Man No Way Home could actually be the way to get Spider-Man back home. And I'm here for it, man. Genuinely, I really am. I only wish the film didn't look like it was shot over a Zoom call or in Kevin Feige's basement. I get this was made during the time of a pandemic, but I found No Way Home to be 80% of the time hideously ugly with no tangible sense of space.
Bro, look at the lighting in this scene. Man says that the lighting and every frame shot, but look at the lighting in this scene.
A lot of singles, characters, fantastic.
You don't have that quality yet, of course, to show. I cannot show you examples right now. But there's so many shots.
Actors isolated in front of a green screen, interacting with nothing, edited together with another fantastic actor, probably shot weeks, months later, reacting, isolated in front of a separate green screen.
I've seen the movie 3 times. In Far From Home, I did notice they were sometimes they're speaking dialogues, but the mouth was moving completely randomly. But in this movie, I've seen this movie 3 times in cinemas. Never felt like there was an off when the characters were talking, because if there was, they would refilm it again to make sure that we're not able to tell that. But unless High Top is literally looking for every single corner of the screen, trying to nitpick because he doesn't like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, sure, I could do that with Raimi, Andrew Garfield, I could do that with any movie. Okay, so why am I turning into XC? I could do that with literally any fucking movie. So
in the Marvel method for a good bit, but it's never felt so noticeable to me. The spatial continuity, the visual rhythm has never felt so off to me. No Way Home clearly needed a few more months in the oven, because the half-baked CGI really left a stale taste in my mouth.
Dude, where was the CGI for when Andrew and Toby's suit was kind of questionable, but they fixed it. Have you ever heard of a movie that's already airing in theaters and they decide to fix it and then give updated versions? They fixed it by the time I'm watching this video. This video came out last year, but they fixed it. Okay, so even they realized, yeah, sure, they kind of rushed it, but they fixed it. Watch the updated versions, okay, man? Like, it's like those Hunter x Hunter manga readers who just watched the original, like read the original mangas, and like after this chapter it dropped off. But then the author went back and fixed it, okay? You're just always gonna look at the fact that like, oh, it's bad here. But like 90% of the time, movies or authors or whatever, they don't go back and fix things. Especially, have you ever heard of a movie that fixed or went back and edited the CGI to make it look better when the movie's already in cinemas? You would never hear that. But then since Marvel loves their fans, of course you're gonna go back and fix it, okay? This is not me like trying to defend Tom Holland or anything, or like the movie, but I'm just saying like they actually just fixed it. But of course at this time at the video he did not know, so I'll give hitop a point. I'm not keeping a point score, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that there was some CGI where Andrew looked buff as hell. But to be fair, Andrew just got more buff, okay? So I'm pretty sure actually, okay, I'm not gonna say anything without doing my research, so fine. I somewhat agree with you that Andrew and Toby, there were times when they were wearing their suits, they kind of look iffy. But besides that, like the CGI, because in these movies, especially MCU, there's so much more magic and other shit that cannot be just shot. Like in the old movies, it was just a guy swinging, so it's easy to make a guy swinging around, right? And add these cars or these explosion effects, but it's hard to do that with like Doctor Strange fucking casting portals and everything. You gotta understand where they're coming from as well. Yeah, sure, it's not perfect. I don't think so. I've ever seen any MCU movie where I'm like, yeah, I had zero complaints about the CGI in this movie, because even in Shang-Chi, I almost felt that way till the dragon showed up. He did look beautiful, but there were times where I was like, ooh, they fucked up here. So yeah, props to Marvel for trying their best and actually going back and fixing it, but there is a problem with their CGI and how they use it too much sometimes, and I do agree with hitop here that CGI can be a bit overused and it gets really boring. But I do not have a problem with the shots or the visuals like most of the movie. Why was that such a long rant? Again, speaking my thoughts here, it's a stream, no one's watching, so I'm uploading it to YouTube. And hello YouTube.
It's not by any means the fault of the artists, who probably finished working on it last week after months of sleepless, caffeinated nights. But if you have to use recycled footage from Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 1 just to provide satisfying emotional closure to two
they had to do it because of scheduling issues. I'm pretty sure they didn't want to do it.
of your lead villains, it might be time to delay the movie.
I kind of do it. I really wished they saved No Way Home till like March. But that's just like a personal bias because I really wanted to see it on my birthday. But I'm watching Batman on my birthday. It's coming out 4th of March, but like No Way Home came out 2 days earlier in Malaysia, so hopefully on 3rd of March I can watch Batman.
What I'm trying to say, really, is that I wish I could hear more of John Watts' voice as a filmmaker.
What the fuck is this, hitop?
That I wish I could hear more of John Watts' voice as a filmmaker, as an artist. His visual touches in this film, the oneers, the trackers, the rawer violence are more predominant, but he still feels caught up, too caged, confined to the MCU film's hamster wheel of bare bones, flatly lit medium shots. A Spider-Man film has never felt so visually textureless to me, so aesthetically lifeless, with no sense of tangibility ability. To me, the visual styling gets in the way of the story and storytelling too many times. Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire show up. They make their grand return. Two beloved Spider-Men icons. You will never get to experience that feeling again. Neither will I. And that experience is great. The collective love like no other. But that experience will always have been filmed in boring medium shots, edited for applause, and written, staged in Ned's grandma's house. There's no going back. And I just wish that that resurrection, that once in a lifetime moment, was a tad more awe-inspiring. Spider-Man swinging has never felt so lifeless. Spider-Men soaring together will always get a massive applause, even if it looks like murky, unfinished previs with less style, clarity, and punch than what Mark Webb did in 2012 and what Sam Raimi did in 2002. I know it sounds like I hate this film, trust me guys, I know, but I promise you that Spider-Man No Way Home is my favorite of the Watch trilogy. It's my favorite thing the MCU has done with the character since 2016, and it's the first time that Tom Holland's Peter Parker has really felt like Spider-Man to me. There's a moment, that big moment, when the tone took that massive switch, when the MCUism started taking a backseat, being restrained to Doctor Strange's prison, when they finally allowed genuine emotion, genuine sincerity, when No Way Home transitioned from being a standard, messy, modern MCU flick to finally a Spider-Man movie. And that transition happened as soon as they allowed Peter Parker to feel, allowed us to witness, to empathize with loss, with grief, with longing, with pain.
They did this in Far From Home too. Of course, in No Way Home it hits harder because in Far From Home there was time passed since Tony's death. But this one just hits so hard. Like, holy shit. Dude, Aunt May's death is the best death in Spider-Man. Like, even in PS4, this Aunt May's death is 10 times, 100 times more impactful than the Uncle Ben's death we have seen before. Why? Because we know Uncle Ben is gonna die in the origin story to make Spider-Man who he is. We're expecting it, we're waiting for it. Like, in the first 20-30 minutes, Uncle Ben's gonna die, he's gonna put on the suit, try to find a killer. That's what they did for the past two movies. But with Aunt May, not until when his fucking Spidey sense activated, when, like, before he realized Norman Osborn was like a Green Goblin state, he said, "May, are you okay?" And I was listening very closely to the whole thing because I was so intrigued, I was so interested in the movie. I told my friend, "Bro," he said, "May, are you okay?" He senses May's in danger. He's like, "Nah, bro, she's not gonna die. She's Aunt May. Aunt May never dies. Uncle Ben dies." And he reassured me. Because I was worried, like, please don't kill Aunt May. I would be heartbroken. He reassured me. He was like, "Aunt May won't die." Like, he didn't say that like Aunt May, but he was like, "Dude, there's no way they're gonna kill Aunt May." And when she was like, "You're fine, you're fine," I was like, "Oh, she probably just gonna be in a coma, but she'll be fine." And then she says, "With great power, when it comes," and I fucking teared up. I was like, they're gonna kill Aunt May. They're gonna kill Aunt May. And that just hit a different level.
It's a brilliant move to kill Aunt May, to make her the much-needed Ben Parker, and I'm fine with that. I'm more than fine with MCU Peter being pretty much raised by a single mother. That's a lovely, smart addition that could actually add more to this version of the character. But I so very wish that I cared about this May Parker. No Way Home tries and almost succeeds at making her what she always should have been, Peter's moral compass. The only
Bro, was she not Peter's moral compass in Homecoming? Not in Homecoming, Far From Home.
problem there is that for the last two movies, for the last 5 years, this Aunt May has been relegated to the cool, chill, hot mom.
Summer fling.
It's a travesty, a tragedy, because Tom Holland really brings it here. John Watts really brings it in the way he allows her, allows Peter, allows us to feel the weight of her shocking death. I just wish this was planned, wish this was thought out movies ago, because then, maybe, May Parker would have always held the emotional weight, always have been the quintessential strong, selfless mother that her comic counterpart, that her other film renditions have always been. But is that
I hate Sam Raimi's anime, by the way. I prefer Andrew Garfield's anime much better.
Film's fault for trying to rectify the previous? I'm not sure. I really don't know. I do know that after that moment, I started to feel a lot. I started to become invested in this Peter's journey. Maybe it was the inclusion of the other Spider-Men, the surprise everyone saw coming, but the love I was not expecting. Andrew saving MJ, Toby leaping in front of Norman's glider, all wonderful cathartic character moments for two Spider-Men that have been trying to stop those inevitable, fateful Spider-Men that have been trying to stop those inevitable, fateful tragedies from ever occurring. They couldn't in their universes. They couldn't and will never be able to go back and stop the loss they have experienced. But maybe, just maybe, to quote Andrew Garfield's always gut-punching, vulnerable Peter Parker, they can stop Tom's Peter from ending up like them. But that's the thing, right? That's what the movie is saying, right? That in order to be Spider-Man, truly be Spider-Man, you must experience life-altering, unforgettable, earth-shattering heartbreak. You must suffer only to endure. You must be faced with a choice to harm only to help. It's what they do, what Spider-Man always will do. And yeah, man, there are little things I can nitpick all the live long day. The idea that Max Dillon or Kurt Connors have something they want to be cured of, they need fucking therapy, not a non-consensual jab to the neck. Or Raimi's Peter referring to Harry's death as if it happened after a betrayal when it was really a loving sacrifice that killed his best friend.
My friend Harry taught me that. He chose to be the best of himself.
Or Pete's and MJ's entire relationship, Tom and Zendaya. They have great chemistry, but their love wasn't naturally established, naturally built. It wasn't about teenage idealization and then adulthood sacrifice. And their connection, their friendship part.
Yeah, because they're still fucking teenagers. How are they supposed to be adulthood sacrifice if they are still 16, 17? They're not even in college yet. They're trying to get into college in this movie. While in the Raimi trilogy, MJ is a stage actress. Peter has a job as a pizza time guy or Daily Bugle, whatever the fuck you're gonna say. But they're way past high school. In this movie, they're finally finished high school. Think of No Way Home starting like No Way Home. Like the ending point of No Way Home is like in Spider-Man 1 when Peter graduates. Think of it like that.
Partnership was never as palpable as Peter and Gwen's. Or I could just complain about fucking Ned. But there's a...
You hated on my boy Ned. I get it. Yeah, he's no Harry from Raimi trilogy, but even that Harry's just a fucking dickhead. Like, he legit knew Peter liked MJ. And what he does in the first like 20 minutes, let me hit on MJ real quick. Dude, MJ is fucking Harry and MJ are so shit in that movie. Thinking about it, like the whole Spider-Man 2, Harry just treats Peter like shit. Like he knows Peter is broke. He sees his living standards, right? Like, as a friend, you should be able to see that. So he knows that he wants to make money, so he's gonna take pictures of Spider-Man. And he's never claimed to be friends with Spider-Man. He just takes pictures of him, right? But Harry decides to treat Peter like shit throughout the whole movie, which makes no sense. And can't Peter be like, hey yo, I didn't kill your dad, Spider-Man did. I need money, I take pictures of him. They never clear any of that up. At least in these movies, they do say something, but it's not like they do try to reason with them, but like usually the villain or whatever is too insane to listen to that reason. But in these movies, Spider-Man doesn't even try to reason with them. Like he's supposed to be smart, right? So can't he just calmly explain to Harry, dude, Harry pisses me off so much, holy shit. And then he gets fucking amnesia in Spider-Man 3 and forgets the first two movies just for him to look in the mirror and remember. Oh my god.
There's also tons of things I could freak out about all the livelong day that I did freak out about through watery eyes of nostalgic joy. Raimi's Peter and Otto's reunion, Andrew's Peter silently watching Holland's Peter and MJ be in love. Pretty much the entire third act is an emotional roller coaster full of fan service that even the coldest of hearts will feel some warmth by witnessing. Obviously, I'm mixed on the movie, but for the first time, I can say that I'm optimistic about where the story, with a new set of storytellers, can go from.
I have a theory, by the way. I think Daredevil blipped, and Kingpin didn't, and that's why he escaped, because he realized the Devils of Hell's Kitchen is no longer there, and I think, hopefully, what I want the MCU Spider-Man to the direction I want them to go in is that Spider-Man 4 is a Spider-Man and Daredevil movie where they take down Kingpin. Finally, once and for all. That now that Spider-Man has defeated him, hopefully, and he can clear Daredevil's name as well because a lot of people are not trusty of Daredevil. But Spider-Man and Daredevil, they take down Kingpin, but Kingpin does something. Kingpin kills Matt Murdock. Holy shit. And then at the end of the movie, Peter gets a symbiote. And because he's realized, I've lost another friend, and this time it was a superhero, I've lost him, I could not protect him, and the symbiote is just a hitting point. Peter's lonely, he's broke, he has no one, and then the symbiote takes over him, and that's a fucking amazing way to build off of Spider-Man 5. And I want him to keep the symbiote throughout Spider-Man 5 and take you off in 6. And fight Venom in 6. Or something like that. Like, I don't want the symbiote to be like a one and done, like how they did in Spider-Man 3, where like he gets on and just takes off in the same movie. I want the symbiote to be there for more than just one movie. Oh, that'd be so good.
From here, even if I can't quite figure out what No Way Home is trying to say, not on a thematic level, but on this weird meta level. Are they saying, acknowledging that Tom was never really Spider-Man? Never really felt
basically
any kind of great loss, consequence, or great sense of responsibility? Am I supposed to applaud the fact it took this long to see the
Bro, they just didn't want to do one and done origin movie. That's why they took their time developing, which makes Tom Holland the most comic accurate after No Way Home, the most comic accurate and the best Spider-Man. And if you're debating that till this day, you're either a Raimi fanboy that just is blinded by nostalgia and will never accept that anything can come better after it, or you're an Andrew fanboy that think they just did Andrew dirty. And I still think Andrew's the best overall actor out of these three. It's just, again, the writing. So I just don't like one or two for the TASM series. Like, yeah, but at least the Raimi movies, even the bad ones, are enjoyable. They're so funny and cringy and cheesy, so dumb.
Fundamentals of the icon back on the big screen? Are they really saying that we've spent more than half a decade and 6 film appearances watching a character that needed to lose everything, needed everyone to forget him in order for him to become the Peter Parker we all know and love? Don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm here for it. I'm overjoyed to an almost disturbing degree that No Way Home ends in a crumbly, crusty apartment where the camera lingers longer, where bathos is removed, where we are left with nothing but melancholy sincerity, left with a Peter Parker who has nobody to call, nobody to pass his problems off to, nobody to share his grief with, swinging into the winter night, a Spider-Man reborn. They for sure fixed MCU Spider-Man, but the implications of that leave me kind of bewildered. The acknowledgement that his character...
The fuck is bewildered? Oh shit. Perplexed and confused,
thus
got me
far
bewildered.
was broken, and thus broke me. The detachment from the MCU, the need to no longer be reliant on the Avengers brand, the idea that now Spider-Man can swing again without the need to have a Fury, a Happy, a Tony, a Strange there by his side, leaves us right back to where we started. A kid, A broke kid, a loner, trying to get by on his own with a secret he must hide in order to protect those he cares for. A young man who feels a massive sense of responsibility because bad things will always happen and they will happen because of you. Will he regress again? Will the character always be destined to repeat this, to relearn, to need to be reborn? Or was having two veterans, two older brothers who have been through it all, finally enough to show this Peter Parker, to show us that grief, that loss, is an inescapable part of life, and that true great power comes from the willingness to carry on, to empathize, to share the selflessness and the love we are shown, even if that love is too often, too easily ripped away from us.
Ooh. Shit. Ending kinda hit hard though. Again, not biased. Did like the ending of this video. That scene of Peter's punching over the shit. Yeah. Dude, that scene was so good. That's my favorite scene throughout the whole movie. Brown Table made a similar video for another stream. I'm gonna sleep.